WHIP
Philadelphia.
Now, on Philadelphia's #1 college radio station, WHIP, Rational Radio.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Rational Radio on Philly's #1 college radio station. This is Ryan along with Duncan, Noah, and Nate. There you go, buddy. Hide behind the computer screen.
Hey, I can see you now.
Yeah.
There we
Yeah,
go.
you know, that's the problem with this studio setup that we have in here.
Can't always see each other.
That's right. How's everybody's Thursday going?
It's a good Thursday, a busy one, but
Cold
good.
Thursday.
It is a cold Thursday,
It's
yes.
way cold. Frigid.
I think it's the coldest it's been this year so
Yeah,
far.
it hit like 55.
Yeah.
Hit like 55. There's wind going. There was a little bit of rain. It's just a muggy day, man.
It makes me happy, you know?
It makes you happy.
Makes you happy.
I don't know about happy.
Okay.
I'm very happy to be able to
All
break
right,
out
someone's
the
a little
flames.
eager for winter to come.
Snowboarders. That's me.
Okay. All right. Hey, we might be having flooded out. We might be walking around, driving around, swimming around Temple in canoes.
Yeah, especially if
Kayaks?
you're an ambler. That's
Oh, geez.
really going to get flooded.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe we should have someone get on that. Anyway, got a lot to talk about today. First thing we are going to lead off the show with is this is coming to us out of Oregon, and there's a bakery in Oregon that refused to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding. And so the same-sex couple took the bakery to court, and the bakery was ordered to pay $135,000 to the couple, and now over $500,000 have been raised on the bakery's behalf to help pay the claims. And the bakery is saying that based on their religious beliefs, that is why they denied service to the same-sex couple. And Oregon does have a religious liberty law, but it does not allow for discrimination against other people. So, what do we think?
Well, it's weird that it seems like those two laws kind of go against each other in that situation. So as a policymaker and as an enforcer, it seems like that's a kind of tough decision to make there. But just from a moral standpoint, I don't know where you guys stand. I've only known you for so long, but I think we've kind of all decided that amongst ourselves, we believe that everyone has the same rights here. And I know that's personally how I believe. And to deny someone the creation of a cake because of their sexual orientation, I think, is unacceptable, and it's good that this fine was placed on them.
But regardless of emotions or feelings or whatever, I mean, business is business. I'm sure they weren't just throwing like $10 at you for that cake. It's probably a lot more
Yeah.
money that you're spending on that wedding cake, and business is business, money is money. So I don't know. To me, just from like a purely business standpoint, it doesn't quite make a ton of sense. But I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense just to like turn away the money. I mean, if you feel that morally strong about it, yes, but now you're getting into the bad publicity part of it.
Mhm.
You're receiving all of this. I wouldn't say it's bad in everybody's eyes, because there's other people that do have this opinion about same-sex marriage, but now since same-sex marriage has been legalized in the United States, it's kind of, beating a dead horse almost. Like, I don't know. I just see it as they're turning down this one person, this one couple, for a lot of bad publicity that's going to bring down their own business. And that's probably just going to hurt them in the long run.
Yeah. So, interesting. I mean, do we think that this should be a national news story? Do we think that this needs to be talked about all over the place? Because, I mean, couldn't the same-sex couple just have gone to a different bakery? I mean, does this need to be a big deal?
Well, I think it's more about principle than about their actual ability to get a cake. Like when you're thinking about it, yeah, they could have gone to a different bakery, but this is an issue that we need to keep talking about. It's not like same-sex marriage has been legalized and now the conversation's done. There's obviously still those stigmas that are floating around that people still aren't accepting this in a lot of areas of the country and in the world. And so I don't think it's a conversation that's just ending here and now, and I think it needs to continue, and people need to keep publicizing this.
You know, it's a rough spot to be in because you can, as a private entity, you can limit your business to whoever you choose, but at the same time, like you can't discriminate against people.
Right.
So it's just these two opposing forces that are just kind of going at each other, and it's just like a strange situation to be in.
No, it's definitely a strange situation. I mean, because if you look at it and you say, is this, based on whatever they believe, is this going against their freedom of religion? And then you also say, okay, well, let's say yes, it is. Okay, well then you say you're also discriminating against the same-sex couple. So now you have First Amendment pinned against 14th Amendment. How can you say this one is more important than this one?
Yeah, the laws are just going against each other. And
Right.
We were talking back before the show started, and someone said that it could go all the way up to the Supreme Court with this lawsuit that's going down because of it. So I don't know. It's very interesting to see play out, and I'd be interested to see it happen in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, because I mean, this isn't the first time that we've heard of this happening, like a business denying someone's service because they don't believe in the lifestyle that they've chosen. I don't know. I don't know if you can make a law based on it because it's already like you can't discriminate against people, so I feel like it's already there. But
I feel like it's happening a lot more than we hear about too, because I feel like a lot of people are just like, oh, okay, like you won't make us a cake, we'll find someone else and spend a ton of money on a cake another place.
There you go. That's
but,
it.
So
Story over.
I think that other places do. This is happening other places, hands down for sure. I don't think this is an isolated incident.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is representative of an entire group of incidents.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, the biggest thing that came out a couple months ago was the Chick-fil-A, where they were starting to deny people of same-sex marriage.
And you know what happened? More people went to Chick-fil-A.
That's true, but
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A is a very big chain.
Right.
Yeah.
They're also a very Christian chain.
They are a very
Yeah.
Christian chain.
Not open on Sundays.
Is this bakery, were they Christian? Is that what their religious belief was?
That's
okay.
what they're
yeah,
saying.
I wasn't
yeah,
sure.
they're saying, according to this article on OregonLive.com, they defended their actions as consistent with their Christian beliefs against same-sex marriage, saying they shouldn't have to provide a wedding-related service that goes against their religious principles.
And how much does this interact with the whole Kim Davis incident? Because they're both different people's opposing viewpoints, and one's in the government and one's in the private sector, but they're very similar issues, I think. So,
I mean, and
Yeah.
this is kind of like the Geno Stakes thing, too. It feels like it's a little bit of a... I mean, obviously, it's not same-sex marriage there. That's based on race, but it's kind of a similar idea as denying service to people because they don't know how to speak your language.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an interesting debate to have because it's where does, are one person's constitutional rights more important than someone else's constitutional rights? Because, like, how do you put two parts of the Constitution against each other?
exactly. And
Like,
this
I
is-
mean, that's ultimately where we're at.
And this is a situation that we haven't really seen on this big of a scale before. This is something, opposing amendments is something that has flown under the radar for a while, because there hasn't really been instances where it can
Right.
where it can rear its ugly head.
Yeah, I don't know if people are all willing to kind of come out and say that the Constitution is flawed. But when you have laws opposing each other, then I think it's clear that there is a flaw
It's
in the
definitely-
system.
Definitely not the best, the most eloquently written
Well,
step-by-step instructions.
The words were eloquent, just maybe not efficient.
What, the Constitution? The words in the Constitution?
Yeah, I mean,
misspoke.
don't want to burn on James Madison.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they didn't. They didn't foresee this coming. They just put them on. They put them on pen
Yeah.
to paper.
I mean, times are changing. Like, they can't consider what 2015 is going to look like when they're writing it back then. So obviously,
Yeah, and
as
that will
times
then-
change, the Constitution needs to change.
And then so then that also brings up the next point that I wanted to make about how now the debate is what do we see like the Constitution's purpose? Should there be a living constitution, a quote unquote living constitution that evolves with kind of thoughts around us or society, what society is feeling, or should it be just interpreted as however they read it? Because Justice Antonin Scalia is famous for he says he's an originalist and he reads the Constitution and issues opinions based on what he thinks that the founding fathers meant when they wrote it.
And you know, playing devil's advocate is just where do you draw the line? So if we're changing so much, what can we not change? What can we change? Where does it end? So I don't know. It's just a very interesting predicament we found ourselves in with this whole situation.
Yeah, agreed. I think that it does need to change though as we go. Obviously, having this kind of fluid constitution that will always change and will always be made for the people and by the people. Like that's what we stand for. And if we're for those people back in the 1800s, then how are we representing today?
I agree. The living constitution is something that the Constitution has to evolve over time because nothing is the same anymore. Almost nothing. I mean, we're still human beings and stuff like that, but we have so much more technology. We have so much. Everything has completely just. We are almost not representative of 200 years ago.
We don't have slaves.
We don't have slaves. I was gonna say that. But yeah,
we don't. I mean, no. I mean, look, there's. I mean, now we have laws we have amendments that have been passed through the ages that now indicate how we have changed since it was passed. The amendments following the Bill of Rights.
So is it time to write a new constitution? Because other countries, not that France is the pinnacle of government or anything, but France has had what 7 or 8.
And now we just alienated all the French listeners out there. Way to go, buddy.
All the French listeners tuning into WHIP. No, but like they've had 7 or 8 constitutions and they're doing all right. So I don't know.
I mean, as long as we continue the amendment writing process, I think that allows us to keep that changing constitution. You don't need to necessarily rewrite it from the heart because, you know, at its core, it is a good constitution. It's just there need to be small changes made as time progresses in order to keep it clean and to keep it correct.
Yeah. No, I would not rewrite it. I'm happy with how
Go
it
America.
is. I'm happy with my protections that I'm afforded in the current constitution. And I think you know it does a pretty good job of representing this country as a whole. I mean, generally, I think we are a good bunch of law-abiding citizens because of the Constitution, because of the framework that it provided, and we were able to build around it. Is it good that there were changes made to it? Absolutely. But I think that also a certain degree of respect needs to be paid to the amendments in the Constitution that have already been passed, which is why I think this debate is so interesting because it literally puts 2 changes that have been made to the Constitution against each other. 2 evolutions that have been made going through history that people saw something needed to be changed, and that's what those amendments represent. I mean, I don't know. The 14th Amendment was added in 1868, and so the First Amendment then, you know, was added in right before the Constitution was ratified, so that it would be ratified for the states that wanted, they were advocating for states' rights. And so once the Bill of Rights was put through, and then they ratified the Constitution. So the First Amendment, religious freedom, has been there from the beginning. 14th Amendment comes in a little over 100 years later. I don't know.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a very difficult decision to make and a difficult thing to imagine how you can really, solve that issue. But
because how do you give the same protection under the law to both people without taking away or violating rights of one of the groups?
Yeah, especially now we're talking about the French. You don't want to violate them either.
No,
sorry, French.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's something that maybe the Supreme Court will take up, but I don't think. I mean, it's something that certainly they've never seen.
Yeah, it's just a very hard thing to. I mean, what do you do? I don't even know if there's a precedent set where two bits of the Constitution were against each other. So it's just a strange situation.
It is indeed. So we will take a quick break, and we will be right back here talking more news of the day on Rational Radio on WHIP Radio, Philly's #1 college radio station.
Go Caleb! Come on, hit a homer, Jesse!
Let's go, guys!
Hey, did you guys know that kids who play sports earn more money when they grow up?
Of course. I knew that.
Hey, did you guys know that kids who read books have a bigger vocabulary?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wow, Jinx. Did you guys know that friendly children have more friends?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's true. I knew that. Did you guys know that winter babies are better at music?
Everyone knows that.
Oh, yeah?
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
obvious.
Oh, hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Huh. I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure I knew that.
I'm pretty sure you didn't.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I'm 19 years old, and this is how I live united. I've always been kind of a computer geek, and I found a way to use those skills to help the homeless in my community. For people facing hard times, computer skills and a basic resume are so important. It may seem like a small thing, but it makes a huge difference in people's lives. So with United Way, I created a program where I work with the homeless. Together, we go through their whole job history, write a resume, and then save it on their very own USB drive. We provide workbooks and training certificates. I even budgeted for cupcakes so we can celebrate as a class when one of our people gets a job. That's huge. When somebody says, "Hey man, that job that you helped me apply for, I got it." That's what Living United feels like to me. My name is Dale Pazinski. I help people achieve financial independence. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
I wish I was in school. I wish I was in school. I wish I was in school.
Summer isn't fun when you're hungry.
If only I had a big test today. Or a book report to give. Give me a math quiz. Give me some homework.
If your child relies on free school lunches, we can help provide them with free meals this summer.
I'll stay after class. I'll clean the chalkboard. I'll keep my desk real clean.
So they can stop worrying about food and start focusing on fun.
I'll do extra homework. I'll clean the class pet's cage. I'll skip recess. I wish I was in school. I wish I was in school.
School might end, but free lunches don't have to. Find your local Feeding America food bank for help. Together, we're feeding America.
To find your local Feeding America food bank, visit feedingamerica.org/summer meals. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Radio on WHIP Radio, Philly's #1 college radio station. We are talking the day's headlines here for you. Now moving into a story that hits home for a lot of people who went to public school in Pennsylvania, and that is the newly released data from the PSSA tests. So if you're not from Pennsylvania, basically the PSSAs are a standardized test now given to kids in primary school up to 8th grade, and then in high school now they're instituting these Keystone exams in line with the Common Core standards that have been adopted nationally, and now they're basing these PSSA scores on the Common Core standards as well, which is new because they used to just be based on Department of Education initiatives and what they thought was important and needed to be tested. But now they're saying that they want the test to make kids more business ready, more college ready. So there's this article on Philly.com and the data that just came out. Only 42.5% of students in the state scored proficient in English and language arts, and in math, only 26.1%.
And you said this was the new PSSA test, right?
The new one, yeah.
Okay.
And so overall, the state reported that math scores were 35% lower and English scores were 9% lower than last year, which was the old test. Then we look at the case study here in Philadelphia, and only 32% of students passed the English exam here in Philadelphia, and only 17% passed the math exam. So
it's brutal. PSSAs and standardized testing in general is a absolutely brutal topic, and they are brutal tests.
And how accurate are they? Because with
Right.
the new system, so I went to high school in Colorado. We had the TCAP, which was the Transitional Colorado Aptitude Program, something like that, some acronym.
TCAP.
TCAP. It was awful. It was miserable. It went 3rd grade to 10th grade, and then our last year of high school, my senior year, which was last year, they turned around and decided to try and make seniors take them, and it was just a miserable experience. A lot of the time they were wrong. The company they brought in to do the testing had a bunch of grading problems in the past. So 11% of kids scored proficient in a New York test that they administered, and they just didn't do a good job. So we all got together, the whole senior class, we got the whole district together, and didn't take it. None of the kids took it. I think we had 11% attendance district-wide for this test. And they stopped it. They're not doing it this year.
And there were no repercussions from that or anything?
I mean, they tried to do it, but there was nothing they could do. Only 11% of the kids showed up.
That's crazy.
We were backed by the superintendent of the district, so it was really cool to see the whole school get together against standardized testing. But it was just interesting to see, because a lot of these companies are in it. They're for-profit companies most of the time, making the grades, and they're gonna make more money if kids' scores are lower, so they can sell their books to make more money.
Yeah, and so I've taken these exams my whole educational career, these PSSA exams, and they used to not be. I mean, before they instituted all these Common Core initiatives, and obviously now being in college, I haven't taken the new one. But before they instituted all of these new standards, I mean, they were never anything that we freaked out about. I mean, it was just always like, it's PSSA time again.
Did you not have PSSA pep rallies at your school? I had PSSA pep rallies at my school. That was a big thing.
I'm sorry. I am sorry.
They would take the last half hour out of school, get us excited about taking the PSSAs. Tell us.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Central Dauphin High School. Now this was middle and elementary school that we did it, but nonetheless, we had PSSA pep rallies.
Lord. So in 8th grade, you were going to PSSA pep rallies?
Yeah.
And you were getting ready to go to high school, and it was like, all right, woo, PSSA time.
We didn't even have pep rallies for our football team, dude.
Neither did we.
That's also
pep rallies.
You didn't have pep rallies for your football team. You had them for the PSSAs.
They got shut down after my freshman year. We didn't have pep rallies. But the thing was, they told us,
I'm sorry.
I'll get ready for the PSSAs. They're like, you've been training for them all year. We had PSSA books.
Training for it makes it seem like it's like a marathon or something. All right, you've been working towards this all year.
It's true though.
We had set textbooks that taught us how to take the PSSAs.
No way.
Not only that, but we everything was PSSA oriented. We had open answer questions on everything. We had multiple choice a lot more multiple choice tests instead of just like fill in the blanks, so that we would get used to the Scantrons.
Oh my gosh.
It was absolutely ridiculous where I came from, and that stuff has been embedded into my brain.
Yeah, and it's an issue. The fact that teachers now have to teach to these tests, that's an alliteration right there. But the fact that teachers, they're not getting to teach the curriculums that they really want to. They don't have the liberties to do the things that teachers got into their positions, why they love teaching. They're losing that steadily as these tests become more a part of the teaching experience and the learning experience. Because these kids, they're not learning what they came to learn. They're learning the PSSAs. Because if they don't perform well, then the teachers get a bad state performance profile, and then they get bad pay, they get bad reviews.
Lose the money.
It's
all about the money.
And so why is a teacher going to teach anything other than test if they're losing money if they don't do that?
Right.
And I don't know how the Pennsylvania state education system works, but I know in Colorado, the amount of money the school would get from the district and the amount of money the district would get from the state directly came from our test scores. So if we didn't score well on the test scores, we got less money, which is kind of the opposite way it should go. If you're doing poorly, clearly you need more money. But that's how it was. That was the incentive. So, like, they were drilling it into you because they needed the money.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just a very corrupt system. Our whole education system. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm very biased with this.
And you talked about the ability to opt out earlier, and that your school kind of rallied together. Last year, I was part of a news team at my high school, and I did a story on standardized testing, and I got the chance to interview a director for a film called Standardized, which is a documentary about kind of the corrupt system behind standardized testing. His name's Daniel Hornberger, and he's a really great guy. He had a lot of good ideas and a lot of passion for what he was talking about, and he was mentioning the fact that when you try to opt out, schools fight back a lot of times. It seems like you've got a good case where you are successful, but if not enough students opt out, then those students are punished. Their parents are punished.
Yeah.
They're questioned, and the teachers are ultimately punished because they have a worse state performance profile. And so it's a big battle between state and between testers, and it's a corrupt system.
And they try to say that PSSAs don't dictate what kind of classes you will take in like high school. But I have seen multiple cases where you don't score proficient on your math or your reading, and they make you take like remedial classes in order, and they take up a period. So you're not taking that elective, maybe your tech elective that you might go into in the future, a language where you're learning, different cultures and stuff like that. That will benefit you probably more in the future than learning how to take this test will.
Yeah.
And not only that, but teaching to this test is taking up time that, we might be learning stuff that we should know for the future. Like I was talking about earlier, I don't know how to pay taxes. I don't know how to buy a house. I don't know how to apply for a loan, anything like that. Coming out of high school, I probably wouldn't be able to live on my own if I needed to, because I was never taught how to do it.
Yeah. Thank goodness you're going to college now.
Thank goodness I'm going to college.
Which I think is like the real disservice that all of this is doing, is that we don't know how to do anything on our own. I want to say, first of all, I feel bad for you that you had PSSA pep rallies. That's terrible. And PSSA textbooks. We never had any of that. Maybe we got a packet to work on for PSSAs, but it was always my fondest memory of PSSAs was it was like a week of no homework, because they were like, all right, go home, take this time off. Like, you worked hard today. I'm like, yeah, I worked hard today. Right. Filled out Scantron sheets for 2.5 hours or however long it was. But, it's, bad scores, then bad adequate yearly progress for the schools, not as much money from the state, which is the issue with the schools in Philadelphia, because when you have only 17% of kids passing the math exam, your adequate yearly progress is not that high, and then you're not eligible for like more state funds, so it just perpetuates the problem.
Exactly. And at the same time, week and a half it took to take these tests, there was no regular classes going on.
Exactly.
So you're missing out on learning the material that could help you pass the test next time. So it's just a whole just a whole bunch of issues with this system.
You can't forget the moral and personal impact that this has on kids too. Young kids that are having to take for some kids, maybe not for us, but for some kids, this is a very traumatic experience. Having to take these really high stakes tests that they don't know that they're going to do well on. My sister is a teacher and my mom is a teacher, and they've watched these kids and they've seen the stress levels in, first, second, third graders just really freaking out about these tests, going home, freaking out to their parents. They get emails into the teachers saying how scared they were of the results. And a lot of kids that aren't good at standardized testing, they may be smart kids, they may be really, really good kids, but they don't get good scores on these tests, and so, they go through life with this feeling that they're stupid, because they're not able to achieve a high score on a test that says that you can't do this. And I bring it back to Daniel Hornberger. When I got to talk to him in his home, he emphasized the fact that these tests are wrong because kids are going through life thinking they're stupid when it's not true.
And it's not even always a part, like, the stress on the students. It's also stress on the teachers and the administration themselves. The same school that had the PSSA pep rallies, we were taken down for cheating They altered the test scores at my elementary school, and about 3 or 4 years after I graduated from elementary school, they came in and they took out the principal in handcuffs for altering the scores of our PSSAs. So possibly all of my PSSA scores from elementary school, they could be completely wrong.
Yeah, because then that brings up the whole debate that just happened in the school districts in Atlanta, Georgia. There was a big teacher cheating scandal there, where these teachers were accused of fixing and doctoring up these kids' exams so that it looked good on them, and so that they would get higher scores. And now looking at that, what does that say about these tests? Look at this. The teachers are freaking out about it.
Yeah, and can you blame them because they're going to lose money if they don't?
They're willing to go to jail over this to get higher test scores. I mean, they could quit their job, find another job, but they're like, no. I'd rather try and cheat, take the risk that, I might get caught, I might go to jail. Whereas, if I don't like this, I could just end it myself. Whereas now I'm in jail, they may take my teaching license away. I may never be able to do this again, all over standardized tests.
And we're talking about another anecdote here, that there was a guy from Florida. I don't remember exactly what his profession was, but he had his PhD. He was a very smart guy. He'd gone through a lot of education. And he knew that there was something wrong with what they call the FCATs in Florida Comprehensive something. And so he took this test wondering how difficult they really were for these 10th graders. And he failed the test. It was just a math exam. He took it as, a 40-year-old man with his PhD, and the test told him he was stupid. So for these 10th graders that are taking a test that obviously don't have the same level of education as him, and not all of them are going to get their PhD, very few of them, what kind of results are they getting? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked at further. I know the area where I come from, the state senator, Andy Dinniman, was very opposed to standardized testing, saying basically he was never a good test taker and that students shouldn't be put in this high-stakes testing situation where, some kids don't do well, but they don't have a choice. They have to take the test anyway. And then they're saying that about the SAT, about the ACT, that something needs to be done in this country that gives kids an alternative to this high stakes testing. But then you also have, now they go and institute these Keystone exams now, and the requirement is if you don't pass the Keystone exams, you don't graduate high school.
You have to take remediation courses, and it's just making it worse.
You can take the Keystone exam 2 times. If you fail it both times, then you can do a project. And the project, if you pass the project, then that'll satisfy your requirement. But then you'll graduate with a degree. You'll graduate with an actual Keystone exam degree that'll say passed with project. And so the point of people who are advocating against this is, how does this look? Employer looks at this. First of all, if I'm an employer, I'm not giving any weight to a standardized test diploma. I don't care what it is. But they're looking at it and they're seeing passed with project. Oh, I got Johnny over here. He passed with the project, but Zach just passed his first time. Who am I gonna hire? And then it becomes the decision of that. You're basing it on standardized tests who you're going to hire, because ultimately that's what they said their goal of this was, is to make kids more business ready. They're saying they base these standards off of talking to like industry professionals and whatever.
Yeah. And now some colleges don't even require standardized tests. They don't require the ACT or the SAT.
Temple.
You can opt out of sending in your scores and just do what Temple did, was a couple of short answer questions that they will judge, like their readers will judge and figure out from there. But yes, schools are starting to just wean away from the standardized tests because they are pressured tests, and there are people that just don't do well taking tests, and that just happens. So basing college acceptance and almost the rest of their lives on one test is kind of a little bit ridiculous when you think about it.
Very high stakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can't tell me that you're going to give a blanket exam to how many kids are in Pennsylvania? A stupid amount of kids, an unbelievable amount of kids, and say that it's going to adequately judge all of them. There's no way.
No way. Well, certainly an interesting issue. Certainly one that will not go away and that will still be talked about for a while to come. Another quick break coming at you, but keep it tuned here to Rational Radio on WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station.
Hello, and welcome to today's lottery drawing. Good luck. And here's today's winning numbers. First one up, it's not yours. Second one, not yours. And another number that's not yours. Okay, this is one number that's yours. It's a 5, but you don't get any money for that. And the final number is not yours.
Yep, so chances are you're not going to hit the lottery anytime soon. Don't get us wrong, the lottery can be fun every now and then. Just please don't rely on it for your future savings. How about this? Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte every day. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering in. Ride your bike instead of buying all that gas. These changes alone can save you thousands a year. Thousands. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feed that piggy bank. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
My name is Ruth Rusi. I'm a retired teacher. I'm 91 years old, and this is how I live united. I say retired, but not really. Once a week, I read books to children as part of United Way's education program. Reading to a child creates links between language and literacy. It creates a bond between grown-up and child. And believe it or not, it prepares them for a better academic future. Oh, we read about frogs and flies and pigs with wings, all sorts of juicy stuff. It's a joy to watch all those little faces. I figure I have the time and they have the need. And I've always believed that if we're not here to help each other, then what are we here for really? My name is Ruth Rusi. I help kids prepare to succeed in school. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Thanks for asking, but I'd rather not send you nude pictures. I'm camera shy. I already said no. It's against my religion. I'm giving my dog a bath. You can have pictures of that. Pressure gives me hives. Under my clothes, I'm a robot. Hold on, let me ask my mom. Sorry, my webcam is broken. I'm worried they'll get passed around school. Unfortunately, I just had my clothes surgically attached to my body. If they got out, I might never be president. I'm already naked, under my clothes. Not even if you were all 3 Jonas Brothers. I have a rash. I have nudophobia. I have lizard skin. The more you ask, the less I want to. You're not the boss of me. Nudity makes me vomit. I'm a vampire, so I don't show up in pictures anyways. Your badgering has really killed the mood.
When someone is pressuring you to do something you don't want to, how many ways can you say no before they get the message? Let us know at that'snotcool.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Everybody to Rational Radio here on WHIP Radio, Philly's #1 college radio station. Little Kevin Rudolph, Let It Rock.
Oh yeah, I love that
to get
song.
you pumped up this afternoon. So yeah, before we go into our next story, we are talking stocks. The Dow is currently down 79 points, the S&P 500 down just about 5, and the NASDAQ down 20 points. So lots of red on the board today, unfortunately. Topping the news on Wall Street, this according to Yahoo Finance, saying a sluggish start for U.S. stocks following a rough quarter. But the unemployment rate is set to decline, but the Fed is going to hold off on interest rates just a little bit longer. So lots of people kind of holding out, waiting to see when the Fed is going to raise interest rates, causing a little bit of uncertainty on Wall Street, as well as uncertainties over China and their economic slowdown, and whether or not if or when their economy slows down, if they could take down the global economy with them. So some scary stuff going on out there in the economic news. But yeah, moving on to our next story. We're talking mandatory minimum sentences. Some senators have appeared to reach an agreement on a criminal justice reform package that will likely include some changes to how mandatory minimum sentences are applied. This according to an article on the Washington Post. This reform bill, it would not completely eliminate mandatory minimum sentences for drug offenders, but it would kind of revamp how they are applied and let them be applied on a case-by-case basis. According to this article, 77% of all Americans are against mandatory minimums. So, what do we think?
I mean, I think mandatory anything is rough because I think everything is a case-by-case basis. So, like, I don't know, I mean, obviously this is a weird situation, but like you get a kid that walks into high school with his like drug dealer father's bag, and like that kid has a mandatory minimum. So
yeah.
So there's like things like that are specific cases that can't be applied, that can't get applied to the mandatory minimum. So
yeah, it's kind of, I'm not exactly sure how they would rule by a case-by-case basis if something's mandatory. Those just seem kind of contradictory.
No, they're saying get rid of the mandatory minimums, make it so that they're still there, but that you can evaluate it on a case-by-case basis. So it's not saying it has to be this, but they are there if you want to use them.
So
it's giving the judges more discretion in what they do. So it's saying, let's say for possession of a small amount of marijuana, it carries a 5-year mandatory minimum. I don't know if it does. Let's just play pretend here. Okay. So then the judge can say, well, I think this case actually warrants maybe 6 months in prison. But if they think, I think, the mandatory minimum is there for them to use, then I think, this is probably about 5 years. Then they can use it.
Well, it doesn't really seem like the mandatory minimum carries really any weight at that point. If the judges have the choice whether or not to follow something that's mandatory, it isn't really
right. Yeah, no. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, judges have a lot of discretion here in the criminal justice system because basically they can take something, they can look at it, they can take a plea deal, they can reject the plea deal, even if it's been worked out by the prosecution and the defense. They think it's all good. The judge can look at it and say, no good. Rework it, which is very interesting. They can go, there are, here in Pennsylvania, there are recommended sentencing guidelines for like criminal cases, and judges can go above or below the guidelines as long as they state their reasoning for it. So, you look at something and say, oh, that's definitely going to be 20 years in prison. Well, the judge could give you 10 if they say, he was really remorseful for the crime he committed.
It's a first-time offense.
It's a first-time offense. Yeah, exactly. Or he can go more saying, he broke into the home of an elderly person who lives alone, and that would be kind of more of an aggravating circumstance as opposed to a mitigating circumstance. So I don't know. I mean, it's something that a lot of people, there's an organization out there called FAM, Families Against Mandatory Minimums, who's advocating heavily for just getting rid of mandatory minimums because they're saying it's ruining too many people's lives who could be first-time offenders, and they're sentenced with these just exorbitant sentences, and they're spending the rest of their lives in jail or half the rest of their life in jail.
Exactly, and when you're in jail for 45 years,
right?
When you come back out, you're
exactly.
And you went in when you were 20 years old. Like there's no way you can come back from that. So there is, but it's rough. It's a hard thing to do. So and I think that the whole state is moving towards this step by step with the decriminalization of marijuana and things like that. We're just moving in that direction.
Yeah, I don't think. For some of these people, for some of their offenses, I don't think it warrants 20 years in prison. I think oftentimes that they could possibly come out of prison worse than they were when they went into prison. And then it's the taxpayers who are paying for them to stay in prison for 40 years for a small possession of marijuana. I mean, why? What good is that doing them, and what good is that doing us?
Exactly.
I mean, we're paying to keep them in there, and then but they're not. I mean, if they're not productive, then no, why?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've heard about this, but I think it's in Sweden. In their prisons, they give the inmates the opportunity to ride a bicycle to to create electricity to power homes in the nearby area. And
Look at those Swedes.
Yeah, and the more homes they power, the quicker they can get out. So it's like benefiting the community and benefiting them. So like if they're willing to work for it, then
if I was in prison, I'd be on that bike all day
biking.
long. I'd be saying, "Sir, I put in 15 miles today."
Yeah, like I would go so hard.
Yeah.
But so on the European country topic, I think it was Portugal that decriminalized all drugs. So in Philadelphia, we decriminalized cannabis and weed, but in Portugal, everything's decriminalized, and if a cop catches you, he confiscates your materials, writes you a ticket. Obviously, depending on the amount. Like if you are walking around with like a trench coat, like the movies, like you throw it open.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, what if you're walking around and you got like boxes, you got like bricks in the boxes.
No, there's a
ticket.
There's a limit on it, but everything's decriminalized, and a cop confiscates your materials, writes you a ticket, and I think that's where, if we're not, I think we should be moving towards in America, because I don't know.
Whoa!
To me,
All right, bold statements here on Rational Radio.
If a kid is, because I mean, like in North Philadelphia, like people are growing up with this. People are growing up with drug dealers on the block that they know and are friends with, and like this is a way to make money to feed their family. So it's something that that they need to do, and obviously it's not the right thing to be doing, but people are products of their environment. If it's happening around them, there's a good chance that they're going to be doing it later on.
I think that's dangerous. I think that's very dangerous. If you have a kid who's got some heroin on him or something, and you're just like, here you go, sir.
Right?
Here's your ticket.
It can't be like $25 for like heroin, but I don't know, locking a kid up for having.
Oh, I don't think that's the answer either.
Before you're 18, you're not going to jail anyway.
Yeah,
true.
I mean,
That's true.
yeah, you could have. I mean, they could if they put you in like an institution until you're 21, or they could have just unlimited probation until you're 21. But I mean, that's really to like the extent of like what the juvenile system can do. But if it's serious enough, they can have you tried as an adult, which is another topic.
Right. Now, are we talking just having it on our person, or intent to distribute, or in use of?
I'm not sure, but it's a dangerous situation no matter where you are.
In Portugal, it's different if you're. I believe it's Portugal, and I believe it's different if you are. If you have the intent to sell.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're pushing drugs, it's different than just having it on you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that makes a lot more sense.
Which I agree, those penalties should be different than the ones for just possessing it. Like if you're out there and you have a bunch of heroin or cocaine or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go see who I can sell this to.
Right. Yeah.
I think there need to be steeper penalties for
especially
that.
if minors are involved.
Yeah. Oh, especially. And then see that's why the mandatory minimums don't work, because if you have a guy who's trying to sell heroin to someone who's 14. Then I think that should be an aggravating circumstance, and then you should sentence him more, or her more. Whereas, if it's just a mandatory minimum, then it's just saying, okay, I mean, here's what the book says, here's what I have to do. Whereas, like,
but that doesn't have to deal with maximums. Like a mandatory minimum, like they're able to increase that punishment.
True.
And it's going on a lot more than we see. Like, I watched, I don't know how many of you have seen Black Mass, the movie about Whitey Bulger in Boston, but like he was pushing, like he started a drug ring pushing drugs to kids in high school. And so like this is a big thing that we're dealing with, that obviously like you can't put him away for 5 years. Like he's going to be right back out. So like pushing drugs and possessing drugs are very different.
Yeah. So if we move off this topic and hit one more topic before we get off the air today, Duncan really wants to debate this topic.
Well, it's not so much of a debate. It's just a piece of news that I thought was kind of relevant as we're seeing hurricane season kind of coming upon us here in Philadelphia. If you've read that we can all feel the rain and the cold. It's kind of pressure dropping here. But there is a severe hurricane that's... it's not on direct path for Philadelphia, but it's in the area, and so it's something that we're kind of all preparing for. And actually, in my hometown, there was just a tornado that touched down It was on Wednesday, and it was a EF1 tornado, so it wasn't like a severe casualties destroying the entire town, but it was just something that like I had never considered would happen in Pennsylvania. Like, I had never actually heard of a tornado in central Pennsylvania before, and it was weird to think that it would happen. It happened about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from my own house, and it, ripped up some parts of the neighborhood of people that I grew up with and people that I know are going to colleges away from home right now. So, I think with hurricane season upon us, we can't be too safe. So just a note for all people out there is just to, be wary and, hold on to the people you love, because it was weird to hear that my family was at home where there was a tornado, and that was an impactful situation on me.
And that is a very weird thing to happen in central Pennsylvania, because we're in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, exactly.
So typically tornadoes get shut down in mountainous areas.
There's warnings all the time, but like it never would touch down. You just kind of, write it off like it's nothing but touch down.
Well, there you go.
And then so if we just talk about another topic real quick before we go, we were talking about this the other day about how Russia says that they want to take the lead in the fight against ISIS, and now today a report coming out that they possibly attacked from airstrikes the U.S.-backed rebels in Syria. And this, according to an article on the Washington Post, it says that Russian officials vehemently defended their airstrikes in Syria as blows to the Islamic State, even while U.S. officials are saying that they are now targeting U.S.-backed forces. So here we go.
Being mean? Whoa, what?
This isn't the first time that we've seen something like this come from Russian officials.
But I'm still happy that they're taking the initiative to fight here.
Oh, unless they're taking the initiative to fight against us.
Well, yeah, then that needs to be something discussed. Which is why they need to talk about this before they just go dropping bombs on Syria. Where was the discussion that happened saying between U.S. and Russian forces saying, great if you want to do this, but here's where we think some of our people are. Why don't you avoid these areas and then focus on these areas? There were reports earlier in the week that Russia was bombing cities where there wasn't even a strong ISIS stronghold. So now that's just questionable in and of itself.
Yeah, and you wonder how much of these decisions are coming from the Federation Council and the Duma, and how much of it is just coming from the big man upstairs with Vladimir Putin and Dmitry Medvedev. Is their tan democracy, so to speak, really a democracy at this point, or who's really in charge?
Yeah, I mean it's I want them to have some sort of role in this, because I don't think that the U.S. need to do this all on their own. But I do think that there needs to be some sort of communication between the forces and between both sides about who's going to do what. How about, work together? Let's go. Let's double team them and let's make something happen here. Come on, let's not this is like friendly fire.
It can't be that hard to figure out where our people are, where their people are, and to make sure they don't shoot each other. I mean, obviously there's a whole lot of military stuff that goes on that's way above my head. And
yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how much we really know.
Beyond anything I could even imagine or possibly start to understand, but it can't be that hard to know that these people, we don't shoot them. It's not.
Well, maybe for them it's hard. I mean, who knows? I mean, because all of a sudden they were just like, yeah, we want to do this. And we were just kind of like, oh, Russia says they want to fight ISIS. Should we let them? Should we let them? What should we do? What should we do? Does it look weird if we team up with Russia? Well, they want to fight ISIS. We want to fight ISIS. Wow, we have something in common.
Isn't that weird? When you find something in common with Russia.
Hopefully this doesn't go down.
It is weird.
Hopefully this doesn't go down as a big blunder that's caused World War III. Fighting with Russia and then Russia fighting us.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a shame? We're both fighting a common target and it ends up making things worse. I hope that is not the case.
It'd be very sad.
I don't know. They need to have some sort. There needs to be some sort of communication, and obviously they're not going to admit and say that they targeted these forces, and the U.S. is not going to at least blatantly say we know you did this. they're going to try and work something out diplomatically and see how this keeps going. But I think that it's moving in the right direction. Maybe if Russia joins in, they can bring in some other people and finally put an end to this. Because it'll be good for them if Russia's airstrikes actually help put a huge blow to ISIS. I mean, because then the story for them is going to be Russia ends ISIS, and the story in the U.S. is going to be U.S. support with Russia helps end ISIS. But I mean, I think it would be. I mean, I don't know. I think it would be to their benefit to do that. I think it would increase their favorability view in the world if they can say, we really decided that we all have this common enemy and we're going to start fighting them, and look, we eliminated them. I think it would help them out. I really do, especially with all the sanctions that we have against them. So
steps that could be taken. I don't know. It's still very strange to me that we're choosing. And yes, we're fighting the same people, but I mean, Russia. Come on,
I know,
it's
I
Russia.
Hear you.
I know, but let's talk diplomacy. Can't we just find peace? It's Russia, but are we really that different?
I mean,
yeah,
we didn't.
No, yeah, we're pretty different.
We didn't just walk in and take. I mean, we did just walk in and take a whole nation to ourselves. But that was a while ago. Russia did it. Russia did it 6 months ago. So
that's okay.
That is the most ethnocentric thing. I tell you, America just thinks that we've got so much more on everyone else.
Yeah. So some great discussion today. We thank you for joining us here on Rational Radio. We will be back again tomorrow from 3 to 4 here on WHIP Radio, Philly's #1 college radio station. Have a great day, everybody.